Mary O'Hara almost single-handedly brought the Irish harp to the world stage, and she won hearts with her soaring classical soprano voice, singing the art songs and the big Gaelic songs that have become synonymous with her. With her countless television appearances and big tours through America, Australia and Europe, Mary became one of the most successful Irish artists ever, not once, but twice.
I first heard Mary O'Hara coming out of the corner of our kitchen on the wireless, wet battered wireless. Dinjo was in there too. The shy Mary O'Hara will now play her harp and sing.
You describe Mary O'Hara, if I were to pick in one word, it would be kind of a bit ethereal, you know, it'd be a bit sort of wispy. And especially with the harp and the cuakeen.
She represented the whole mystical experience of Ireland. When you're in Australia, Ireland is the land of the ancestors. It's a faraway mystical land, and she was the voice of Ireland as far as I was concerned.
She is a fine musician, Mary, a serious musician. And as I say, you never hear her breathing, and her recordings of early English music are something else. They're quite beautiful.
She had such a relaxed way of singing, and it was almost like it was ladylike.
Full of elegance on stage, you know. When she walked on, you just said, there's a real Irish woman walking on that stage, you know. And when she sang, it was lovely, you know. So she had it all.
Make sure na na fuin vasa Shayarkas thivlam on spervan kalka kyuntas vanul Mary was born in Sligo in 1935 into an upper-middle-class family with a military background. Her father was a commissioned officer in the British Army during World War II. She was very shy and introverted, and she hated the limelight that came with winning Sligo Feis Ceoil at the age of 8.
Well, Mary would go to the Feis, and even from the time she was a little girl, and she'd come back and they'd say, "How did you do?" And she would say, "I won." Now, that's fine, you know, so but if you didn't win, it was rather silence, and that's the way it was, you know, you did your own thing.
The family moved to Dublin, and Mary was sent to boarding school, where she was one of 3 girls taught to play the Irish harp for a pageant about Thomas Moore, the great Irish songwriter. The Irish harp had virtually died out at this time, and it was really difficult not only to find instruments, but to find a teacher. Eventually, Maura Hay, Mrs. Ferreter, was brought in to teach the girls.
Well, I was still at boarding school, and it was my last term, and Children at the Mic was the Ready Wearing programme. It speaks for itself. And our teacher, Mrs. Ferreter, decided that the 3 of us, each in turn, would go on one of the programmes, which we did. I really don't think that we'd have got on if it hadn't been for the fact that we were doing this extraordinarily unusual, in those days, thing, accompanying ourselves on the harp. It was a curiosity. But then, of course, it seemed to, you know, take hold of me and had its own life. I grew up with 2 extremes, in a sense, and I'm sort of in between. With the pure traditional Irish, I mean the real thing, the real Roisin Dubh and the real Unawan. And these have been, these particular songs have been compared to Lied and Chanson, which are the art songs of Europe. And I also grew up nourished by hearing the Radio Ireland Light Orchestra every Saturday night. They had a concert.
Her sister Joan, an actress in the Abbey Theatre at the time, translated some Irish songs into English for Mary, and she also gave her some early breaks on Radio Erin.
I had a sponsored programme, and Mary did an audition. She sang something, so they thought she was wonderful, as indeed she was.
Mary performed a song in a play at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and she was the star not only of the show but of the whole week. As a result, she started to get some spots on British television, including Quite Contrary, the programme that later would rocket Ruby Murray to fame.
With the series, the subsequent series, it was just voice and harp. It was only probably 15 minutes, at most half an hour. It was a small thing, but it was prime time, 9:30 on a Saturday evening.
The TV series, she's about 18, for the BBC. She used to go every week, and well, things were simpler in Ireland then. She was always late and running across the tarmac, and they knew to delay the plane for her because Mary and the harp. She'd kind of look at the 8 o'clock plane to London on a Monday or something, and to record her series and come home. And she was always late for that plane. Apparently, she to be seen dashing with somebody else carrying the harp. Of course, that was a great knack of hers. She always got somebody to carry the harp.
It was at a party in Scotland that Mary met her future husband, the American poet and scholar Richard Salick, who was to have a huge influence on her life, helping her prepare her programmes and negotiating on her behalf when recording entered the picture. She recorded 2 albums for Decca Records. Now, they tried to persuade her to sing the pop folk songs of the day, and I'm sure with hindsight that they were glad they didn't manage it, because her first release, The Spinning Wheel, sold 2,000 copies in 2 days in Holland alone.
Grandmother sitting is crooning and moaning and drowsily knitting.
Mary and Richard got married in England in 1956 and moved straight away to America, where her career continued to grow. She was in the middle of recording her 3rd album for the Clancy Brothers Tradition label when, 15 months later, Richard died at the age of 28. In spite of the terrible situation that she found herself in, alone, so far away from home, and still only 22 years old, Mary finished the album.
And now a song from Scotland, and it's Robert Burns' beautiful A Fond Kiss, which is sung to a traditional melody, and it's all about the agony of lovers parting forever.
He was a Rhodes Scholar at Oxford, very handsome American man, a little older than Mary. He was about, I don't know, I suppose maybe he was 26, 27 or something. She was, I don't know what age she was, I don't even know if she was 20. But they were only married for 18 months and he died, 15 months or something, he died in New York. They were all alone. It was a terrible thing. And then she wanted instantly to go into a nunnery. But no one would take her because they said this is a rebound.
Mary started seriously looking for a religious order to join at this point in her life, even though her career was soaring internationally. For example, a planned 6-week tour of Australia and New Zealand was extended to 11 months. Eventually, after 4 years of searching, Mary found a suitable religious order. And after winding up her touring schedule and recording enough material for 3 more albums, in April 1962, Mary O'Hara joined the Benedictine order, Stanbrook Abbey in England.
She is a woman of deep faith and belief, and a very intelligent believer You know what I mean? She works out and has argued it out for herself and debated it and read about it and studied it. The whole theology still keeps up to date in her reading on theological issues and spiritual matters. She does a daily period of contemplation. And for her, I think closeness to God is at the center of her life. You can't help but bring that to your singing if you believe that, you know.
While she thought she was hanging up her harp for good, the Mother Abbess insisted that she sing and play the harp as part of her devotion. It was at this point that Mary started to explore some new forms of music, including God songs like Lord of the Dance. She also started putting music to some of her former husband's poems.
I danced in the morning when the world was begun, and I danced in the moon and the stars and the sun, and I came down from heaven and I danced on the earth. At Bethlehem I had my birth. Dance then, wherever you may be.
I wasn't turning my back on the traditional Irish and Scottish, and I never did, and it always remained the core of my work. But space had to be allowed for the other genre, which had crept in. Not crept in, they were willingly brought in. Then my own compositions came to me out of sheer desperation because I wasn't getting the songs that I felt comfortable and excited by. And that's when I started to do stuff myself. Never the words, I just wrote the music.
This is my setting of a prose poem by my late husband, and it's called Among Silence.
One of the songs that I particularly remember for its impact is a song called Among Silence, which is the last poem written by Richard Selig, her first husband. She set that to music very sensitively, and professional musicians who would be playing it with her and never have seen the thing before, never heard it before, were just bowled over by its precision, its delicacy, sensitivity and beauty.
Ill health eventually forced Mary to leave Stanbrook in 1974 after 12 years with the community. She hoped to keep a low profile, but the recordings she had made in 1962 had finally been released 2 years before she left the convent, and her longed-for seclusion didn't last very long. Tommy Sands remembers an incident from this time.
There was a friend in Amesbury that we knew, Patsy O'Toole, who knew a garage man. We went into the garage to get the van fixed. And the man said, "Oh, you're Irish musicians." He said, "There's an Irish musician living up the road here." And I pictured a bearded fiddle player with a bottle of Guinness in his pocket. No, it's a woman. She's very quiet. She doesn't come out much. Sometimes she comes out on a bicycle. Where does she live? Up there. Knocked the door. Who came to the door but Mary O'Hara, who was just recently out of the monastery. We asked her, "Would you give us a song?" She said, "Sure, who would want to listen to me now? I'm out of date." And we said, "Well, we would like to listen to you." And we said, "What about the harp?" She says, "It's upstairs with a few strings broken." And she said, "It was made by a man in Edinburgh, that harp." And we said, "We're going to Edinburgh tomorrow if we get this van fixed, because we're going to the Edinburgh Festival." We took the harp up to Edinburgh, got it fixed by the same man or the same people who had made our harp, and got it sent back down again. And whenever I saw her in concert later in London, I felt in a way maybe our van breaking down contributed in some little way to Mary O'Hara's return to music and song.
But whenever you welcome the hour that awakens the night song of mirth in your bower, then think of the friend who was once welcomed it to, and forgot his own grief to be happy with you. His griefs may return, and not a hope may remain of the few that have brightened his pathway of pain. But he ne'er will forget the short vision that threw its enchantment around him while lingering with you.
Word quickly got out that Mary O'Hara was back, and very soon her good friend Gay Byrne invited her on to the Late Late Show, and she was an overnight success for the second time, only this time it was even bigger. An appearance on the Russell Harty Show in England did the same thing there. Combined with her undoubted talent, Mary's life story made her very marketable.
My introduction to Mary O'Hara was the Late Late Show. Her story, first of all, I think it struck such an incredible chord of interest with the public, and you know, none less than myself.
After being introduced to her music, I read her book, The Scent of the Roses, and well, I was blown away just with her life story. It just opened up doors to me that she could be so honest and so giving of her own emotions publicly that I was like, I want to know more about her. She's just amazing.
Her career was kind of made. She was an ad man's dream. I mean, try telling her this. Mary's very intense about everything, but it turned out she was an ad man's dream. Okay, she had the talent to go with it, but it was a wonderful story, you know. And then she was in orbit, quite rightly.
One of the highlights of her return was a concert at the Royal Festival Hall in London, which was recorded for yet another hugely successful album.
I brought her father over to the concert from Dublin, an elderly man at this stage, and we flew over and arrived eventually at the concert hall at the concert, having met Mary beforehand, of course. But he sat beside me, absolutely stuffed with pride, and he was delighted to see his daughter in this setting. He wasn't a man given to tears, but he had moist eyes and he was speechless, and he just gripped my hand very tightly through the concert, and particularly at the end as the thunderous applause went on and on and on. For her it was such a huge, huge night, and it really launched her second world career brilliantly.
Long, long be my heart with such memories filled, like the vase in which roses have once been distilled. You may break, you may shatter the vase if you will, but the scent of the roses will hang around it still.
Mary, as well as being a beautiful singer, is a highly skilled musician.
Mary is a wonderful example of pure bel canto singing. She doesn't seem to breathe. In most of the singing, there is no vibrato whatsoever, which I think is very pure kind of singing, and it's quite choir boy-like. Extraordinary quality, her voice, and that was acknowledged internationally.
Mary had a very sweet voice. You couldn't have got a better voice with a harp, you know? And her harp playing was she was very meticulous with her music, you know.
But it wasn't just her singing. Her harp playing and her arrangements were so spot on.
Mary would treat every verse differently in the Froggy song, say, for example. And when she's talking about In Came the Bumblebee, she'd go. And when she was saying In Come the Butterfly, she'd go. And there was great technique involved in that. And I don't think she's been fully appreciated for that technique.
There was a frog lived in the well, hi-ho, said Rolly. There was a frog lived in the well, and a Mary was in the dell with me, roly-poly, cabbage and spinach and pie for Anthony Rolly.
is my cheer num njoin her an diva den joran me da hierni an spervanam chor da timnag brochelag shen.
While still at her peak, Mary retired in 1992, much to the dismay of her fans. After such an incredible career, you'd think she'd find it hard to leave it all behind.
Absolutely not. I was so pleased. I was so relieved when I went to Stanford. Thank God I don't have to sing anymore. Pablo Casals, you know, the cellist, he was a young man and he had a bad accident in an avalanche and his hand was badly injured, and his first thing he said was, "Great, I don't have to play anymore." I understand that completely. Not everybody does. People say, "But don't you sing for your own pleasure?" I've never sung for my own pleasure. But if I decide to do something, I'll do it 110% of my best. It's not a choice I have, it's the way I'm made. If you're going to do it, if you're going to polish the floor, do it properly. You know, if you're going to learn and perform a song, do it properly. Do it as best. Do it more than your best. That's what you're aiming at all the time. Stretch, stretch, stretch. Right?
Listen, we have about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Would you ever whip off another little bit?
Oh, Gay, you never warned me.
I know I didn't warn you. I do this all. But come on, I mean, you must have.
Oh, I'll tell you what. No, but I'll tell you what I do. I'll tell you what I'll do. If you have a copy of the book, I'll do a very beautiful reading for you.
I haven't got a copy of the book.
Oh, you must have. Somebody has a copy of the book.
I haven't got a copy of the book. No, no.
Mary has a copy
Plonk
of
a
the
little
book.
thing. Go on.
This is cockles. This is cruelty.
Cockles. Anything at all. Go on. Plonk a little thing.
Oh, what'll I do? What'll I do? I'll do Kitty of Coleraine.
As beautiful Kitty one morning was dripping with a pitcher of milk from the fair of Coleraine.
Mary married again and lives in England now. She influenced a generation of singers and she made a valuable contribution to the vast landscape of Irish music. She sold millions of records and her recordings still sell to this day. She played in some of the biggest and most prestigious concert venues in the world. Mary O'Hara was a huge star, one of the biggest ever to come out of the island of Ireland.
She remains for me my benchmark in accompaniment. I think Mary's accompaniments are fantastic. She obviously did an awful lot of work and a lot of detail, and she had great facility and great technique.
She was respected for what she was, a serious musician, and could fill these great halls, you know. Fill the Carnegie Hall, the Festival Hall, the Sydney Opera House, you know. That is a wonderful thing and really reflects glory on us here.
For people outside Ireland who grow up outside Ireland not knowing Irish music and not being familiar with Irish music, Mary O'Hara has brought Irish music and very authentic Irish music with the Gaelic language and the beautiful old airs to those people, and for many people, including myself, it was our first introduction to Irish music, and a very authentic and good one.
Phil Campbell Songbirds. CD available now.